Michael, at the time we are taping, we started with 64, technically 68, although we don't really count those first four. Um, we are now down to 16 at the time we're taping this. And as a matter of fact, as we are speaking right now, two of the games are ending. So now we're officially down from 16 to 14. Um, but we've got we've got definitely some upsets here. There's definitely a lot of chalk. All the four number twos are still available. The first number one fell, and we got to be honest, it's definitely not the one that we had pegged on last week's show.
No, it's not. A great start for you and I on our brackets, our sheets of integrity, as it were. And then day two happened. Ladies and gentlemen, James and I were commenting to each other on how we did in round one. And on day one, I went 11-5, and day two, I went 13-3. As we sit right now before these games go final, I have only two teams left in my final four, and half my championship game is gone.
I still have my entire final four. Um, I do have a couple of teams in my Elite Eight that are gone. But you know me, I pick round by round and I do it NHL scoring style, to where if your team wins in regulation, it's 2 points. If your game goes to overtime, regardless of whether it's win or lose, it's 1 point. Which kind of, I lucked out with VCU. Well, actually, I should say I took a detriment with VCU because VCU won that game in overtime over North Carolina. But the fact that they couldn't get it done in regulation, I only got a half point, and then I ended up losing on. I ended up taking a push on the Kentucky game, even though Kentucky pulled that one out. I took Santa Clara, so for me, I'm currently sitting at 35, 11, and 2. I've got a 750 winning percentage. It's my best first two rounds in over 5 years, and this is probably the time where I'm now going to start crapping the bed.
Yeah, I usually have a good, if I ever have a, it seems that every time I have a 13 win day in one of the first round days, my next day makes me want to never do it again. And hey, here we are. Yeah, I lost, let's see. I didn't have Florida going farther. I had them going to the Elite Eight
Yeah, I had them
and
losing to.
losing
We both
to
had them
Houston.
losing to Houston in the round of eight,
Yeah,
but
that's my bracket.
nobody thought. Let's talk about that for a second. Nobody thought that Iowa was going to beat Florida that early. If you thought that Florida was going to lose, it was going to be in the round of eight, maybe in the Sweet 16, and that's something that was their Achilles heel in last year's tournament, is playing down to their competition and being in a game way too close than what it should be. We remember that they struggled against Houston in the national championship game. They struggled against Auburn early in the national semifinal. They struggled in their Elite Eight game. That was something that was almost kind of a hallmark of Todd Golden's run to the national championship with the Gators last year. They fall down double digits early in the second half. They claw back, and then Purdue basically nips them with seconds left to go, and Florida can't counter. So, Michael, of you know what we had out there, again, we didn't think Florida was actually going to be the most um, scrutinized of the four number ones, even though Duke had themselves a very, very close game against TCU in that second round, and also kind of struggled against Siena in their opener.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think either one of us had Duke struggling. We had Duke winning in round one, and then each of us had them hood stomping Ohio State in round two. Of course, the Buckeyes can't get it done. Last second bucket by TCU. Um, yeah, you know what, Jim? If I had to flip a coin, I thought that the first number one to lose um, was going to be Arizona. I had Arizona losing to Arkansas in the Sweet 16. And, now we're sitting here. Arizona's still in it.
Well, Arizona's going to play Arkansas later on tonight in the round of 16. They Utah State gave them a game up until about the final, I want to say 6 or 7 minutes.
Yeah, and Gonzaga losing hurt me too because that was one of my final four teams. Kentucky losing hurt me. That was one of my final four teams. So my East and South winners are still there. St. John's and Houston. My West and Midwest teams are gone. I mean, now it's just kind of paying attention to see who's going to play in the big game. Although we're going to be off the week of the big game,
Right.
uh, we'll come back with you after that to do a review of it. But you know what, Jim? I'm more interested in the fact that I don't know if you saw Benchwarmer Brand did the No Cinderellas skit today.
I did not. It's been very busy at work the last couple the really every day this week. So, and with the new Warframe update, it's I haven't really been able to look at anything else. And um, the bombshell that happened on one of my favorite TV shows that I told you about, I actually hadn't been the same since Tuesday.
By the way, I was flipping through TikTok last night and saw it. I saw the scene. Someone pieced it together. 500 episodes. That's insanity. But going back to this, so we don't get too far, since you could end up in Oz tonight.
As there are very bad thunderstorms rolling through Cleveland at the time we're doing this.
Yeah, it's not good. But there are no Cinderellas, James. I mean, we had the big win in round one from High Point, which you and I both had them beating Wisconsin. Siena, Jerry McNamara squad was outstanding in their game against Duke, and they just ran out of gas. They just ran out of gas. I tell you what, though, that Siena team plays a lot like their coach did.
And, well, we should say their former coach.
Their former coaches, Jerry McNamara, has gone home, as he will be the new head coach at Syracuse, where he spent his 4 years of college and was the starting point guard as a true freshman on that 2003 national championship team with Carmelo Anthony. And Jim, I said this to you when I sent you the thing. I did find the timing funny, since Carmelo's son, who was one of the top rated guards to come in the last year's freshman class, had a very bad first year. I don't think it's coincidence that Jerry McNamara was the choice here. Probably should have been the choice to begin with, but I don't see how this was not thought of that way. You said somebody else, Creighton's coach, left too?
Yeah, the coach from High Point left to join, left to take the Creighton job as
Okay.
Greg McDermott retired after Creighton lost in the Crown tournament, which basically is the consolidate the uh, conciliary tournament. As the CBI did not have a tournament this year.
Greg McDermott was on Barstool, and you know I don't like Barstool.
Mm-hmm.
But they asked him, hey, how did you get Doug McDermott to play for you? And he looked them dead in the eye and he goes, well, I sleep with his mom. So that was a big recruiting help. I didn't say it. The guy's father. We should have a counter in the corner for how many times you give me the Taylor soundbite. But Jim, things to look forward to in the tournament.
Wow.
What happened?
As we are doing this, Purdue just knocked off Texas with a tip in with under a second to go to advance to the Elite Eight.
I had Purdue winning that game.
I did too.
No, I had Purdue losing to Gonzaga tonight.
And Iowa tops Nebraska. So we went from 16 again. We're now down to 14. And of the Elite Eight, we've already got 2 from the Big Ten. We might get Michigan there. Michigan State still got their game against UConn on Friday. Illinois will play Houston on Friday. So very good seeding now and standing still for the Big Ten. We lost an SEC team with Texas losing. The Big East has still got both of their teams involved. The SEC's got a couple. We again just talked about how the Big Ten now still has 5 left as of right this second.
I just find it funny that the last 3 football champions have been from the Big Ten. Michigan, Ohio State, Indiana. Jim, the last three basketball champions have been from the Big East and the SEC. What's going on in college basketball? In college sports in general. For years, the SEC ran college football. And now I think you have to say that the Big Ten runs college football. And for years, the ACC ran college basketball, with Michigan State being the outlier at winning championships or making deep runs. It's flipped.
Well, you can also add in the Big East because of UConn's success, even during the mid 2000s with Jim Calhoun as the coach.
Yeah, Calhoun ran a great program. It blows my mind that it's flipping that quickly. Because even the big draw in college basketball was the ACC, and the big draw in college football was the SEC, and it's flipped now. Honestly, it's flipped. The big draw in college basketball all of a sudden is the SEC and the Big Ten, and the big draw in college football has been the Big Ten the last couple of years. So it's like the whole world's just turning on its friggin' head.
And just look, and also think the dichotomy is that the ACC that used to be once this vaunted conference, Virginia is still very good, always gets a top 5 seed, in one of the 4 regions. North Carolina's there, but definitely not where they used to be, as after their loss to VCU, fired Hubert Davis, and now there's talk that they're actually going to throw a whole bunch of money at Billy Donovan to leave the Chicago Bulls, to take over their program. That's one of the names being thrown around. Alex would hate that. Our buddy Alex, from Chicago. I mean, you look at it. I mean, from who's left, Duke is the only team from the ACC still sitting in there. They didn't send. I mean, they sent quite a few. Georgia Tech's not there. We talked about Virginia. Who went out in the second round, upset by Tennessee in this tournament. Miami lost to Purdue in the second round. We had it was not a very productive tournament. Louisville lost in the second round to Michigan State. Those were the only and Duke, again, the only 4 programs from the ACC to get through, and Duke's the only one still standing. So we've got 1 from the ACC, we've got 2 from the Big East, we've got 5 from the Big Ten. I want to say we've got 2 from the 3 from the Big 12, Arizona, Iowa State, and Houston, and everybody else is a Big 10 right now of the 14 that are left.
Yeah, that's insanity. That is like legit crazy. Hats off to the Big Ten with the way they've recruited. Hats off to the Big Ten with the way they've run programs. Because it's not just Tom Izzo anymore, dude. It's not. It used to be Tom Izzo and everybody else. It's no longer just Tom Izzo and everybody else. Michigan's back on it. Ohio State can build on this year, a year after 4 years from missing the tournament. Purdue seems to always be there. Iowa had a great year. Who the hell does Nebraska think they are?
They just, even though their run came to an end, in a very close game up until about the final 2 minutes against Iowa today, never had a March Madness win in program history, pulls 2 out and nearly pulls a third one to go, so not only doesn't even get out of the first round, advances to the Sweet 16 and was very close to getting to the Elite 8 on top of it. So, Michael, when you look at the programs that are there, Matt Painter from Purdue is in yet another Elite 8. You've got John Shire at Duke that's poised to go into possibly another Elite 8. Tom Izzo is still there, and you've got to actually, but we all know that his time might be running short. We've seen some of the pro teams. The Lakers' job was rumored to be going to Dan Hurley of UConn last year, before it ended up going to JJ Redick. So you've got a lot of, and Dusty May looks to be the next big thing, even though he's already got the number 1 team in the country right now in Michigan with the turnaround that they've had. Um, who is the best coach in college basketball that we want to
Oh,
actually talk about right now?
oh,
Todd Golden's got a
I think
national championship. His team is done, however, but they're primed for the next couple of years. You know, Izzo's got his 2 or 3 national championships. Hurley's got 2. You know, Matt Painter's been to a couple of Final Fours. He was in the national championship game 2 years ago with Zach Edey. So, John Shire is looking for a back-to-back Final Four appearance, taking over from Coach K. There's some really good names out there.
honestly, I got to go Dan Hurley. And the reason I have to go Dan Hurley is he won back to back titles. Number one. Number two, he had him what? Sweet 16 last year, too?
Mhm. Because
And
Florida,
now he's
yeah,
back in
because
the.
they put Florida in a huge hole, and Florida had a big comeback as well to get through to the Elite Eight. Yep.
Yeah, it's Dan Hurley because the Big East obviously is only basketball now. And he's keeping it alive.
Before we wrap up this segment, when we talk about the coaches, look at what we've got. Basically, we've got Sean Miller against his name is eluding me right now. Um, the guy who used to be at Kentucky
Calipari.
against Calipari. We've got Patino against Shire, and then we've also got Izzo against Hurley all tomorrow.
That's insane.
And then
That's insane.
Dusty May coaching against Alabama with Nate Oates being one of the premier coaches in the country too.
Yeah, that guy at Alabama is really good too. I
This
mean,
is
think
where
about
the
it this
cream
way.
starts. It's if I was near the kitchen, I'd actually grab a little pod and say the cream rises to the top like the nacho man.
I can't even with you right now.
So, Michael, while we're down to the final 10, 12 games in the NHL before the playoffs begin, and we're starting to see teams now get knocked out of the playoffs. We've seen Colorado and Dallas clinch playoff berths. We're starting to see that in the NBA a little bit as well. As we're starting to actually now start to see the E appear against some teams' names. As a matter of fact, the 10 teams in the Western Conference are already set. It's just all a matter of the seeding. We've got only 2 more that are going to be eliminated probably in the next few days in the East. So we're going to have our 20 teams, including our play ins, before too long. And now this is where we actually start looking not only at seeding, but then we now to start have to talk about the final stretch for postseason awards. Who's going to get rookie of the year, who's going to end up being on the first team. And I'll tell you, one person who's in danger of not getting there and honestly should have been in conversation for potential MVP consideration this year may not get there at all due to the new agreement that was put into the CBA, and that's Detroit Pistons star Cade Cunningham. So, Mike, would you like to break this down?
So basically, in the new CBA and the NBA, to alleviate the BS that's come from load management, you can't qualify for postseason awards or for regular season awards 62 games, right, Jim?
65.
65. You
It's
have to play
it's
60.
65, and then unless you have a season-ending injury, then you can actually play a max of 62.
Okay. So you have to reach that game. And now Cade Cunningham is dealing with it collapsed lung, if I'm not mistaken, right? The
Correct.
most recent. So he's been dealing with injuries this season, but he's played lights out. JB Bickerstaff and Cade Cunningham had the Detroit Pistons with the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. But now with the collapsed lung, he's going to be out for the foreseeable future, including probably getting into the playoffs, I would think, because that's not an ankle or something. This is like, your lung goes, you're in some serious trouble.
Right.
Um, so I understand why they did it. Load management has started to become as bad as innings limit, in my opinion. But having said that, They need to put some context on why guys are missing games. You want to sit for rest, that should be accounted in that. If there is a significant injury, and I mean significant late in the season, I'm not talking about a guy gets hurt in a la Gordon Hayward, knock on wood, in game one. I'm talking 70 games in, you got 10 or 12 left, somebody gets hurt. That's what I'm talking about. They got to put context on it, Jim. I don't know how you feel about that portion of it, but I think the NBA needs to put context on these injuries and these players that get hurt and what they can and can't qualify for going into the award season.
They made their bed, now they have to lie in it. We saw it last year where the only reason that Evan Mobley won Defensive Player of the Year is because Victor Wembanyama went down, with that shoulder thrombosis and became ineligible. And then we all saw that this year, Evan Mobley has not been the player that everyone thought he was going to be. He's taken dramatic steps back. He's nowhere near Defensive Player of the Year. He's not getting consideration at all. That's neither here nor there. Cade Cunningham right now is sitting at 61 games. If this thing keeps him out, he's going to end up missing the possibility of being on the NBA All-First team by one game. This is what the Players Association agreed to. They have to lie in this.
I'm not
As bad as I feel for Cade Cunningham, it's what the league agreed to. They've given so much to the players. It's time for the owners to start taking back.
I don't disagree with you. In total, I don't disagree with you, because here's the thing. If an owner doesn't have his star player because the coach runs them ragged or wants them to play every day, the coach is going to get fired, because that's the cash cow. You can't have it both ways. You can't get them to agree to nullify load management because of awards, and then cry poverty if your guy plays, gets hurt, and you miss out on the playoffs and all that other money that you would get for having a team in the postseason. My issue with ownership in this is you want to help load management. Cool. Get them to agree to shorten the season,
which Steve Kerr has been basically campaigning for, and actually said again publicly last week he wants them to shorten the season from 80 to 65, which would also end up eliminating load management. With TV contracts and everything, we know that is never going to happen. But he also made a very valid point. You don't see it in the NFL because they play once a week and it's the most physical game on the planet. You might see it in baseball, but you got 162 games, even though it's not nearly as much wear and tear on the body as any of the other three professional sports, because you're constantly moving back and forth in basketball, and then the contact between hockey and football. Again, you do see it in baseball to an extent, but not nearly where we do in the in the NBA. And the one sport that doesn't, the National Hockey League. Those guys beat the shit out of each other and don't miss a game. And then we'll play 4 overtimes in the playoffs and then come back and play 3 more periods later that night.
No, I don't disagree with you. I will say this. The only place you really see it in baseball is with pitchers. And that is mostly because pitching is the most, what is it? It's the most unnatural motion that your arm can go through.
Yeah, but but go ahead and finish your statement, but I got a counterpoint to that.
So that's why you see innings limits in baseball. Plus, an arm injury is a full season.
Well, you know why that is, though, is because nobody throws off speed. Nobody throws curveballs. Everybody throws gas anymore. If you can't throw 85 to 90 minimum, you don't have a spot on a major league team. Nobody.
Yeah, try higher than that. 85 to 90 is when you and I were in high school that you could make it into college or the pros.
And that's why 96 and that's why Tommy John is at an all-time high, is because everybody, Mizorowski with Milwaukee, through today, in their opener. And it's like, the clock's ticking on when he's going to go for Tommy John at this point. It, Shane Bieber had it twice and then almost went out and won a World Series because Bieber actually stopped from throwing gas to actually now, start being a corners guy and still actually needed it done. It's just because these guys want to actually play, can you hit this anymore? And that's why there's load management on pitchers. Having a guy take a day off like Hosey or Juan Soto or Lindor taking off, you know, a game here, a game there once a week or once every couple of weeks is one thing. But shutting a pitcher down, you know, for like 2 months because he's basically throwing 75 pitches where they're all registering 95 or better. Come on.
No, I don't disagree with you. I think the philosophy on pitching is really what's caused the issues in baseball with the injuries and especially with the rash of Tommy John. I mean, think about it. We're getting pitchers into the Hall of Fame now who've had Tommy John surgery. Tommy John had his surgery done in the 70s. And now we're at the point where guys who have made it the Hall of Fame have had Tommy John surgery. You have guys coming back from double Tommy John. I mean, DeGrom's had two. Not Verlander.
Bieber's had two.
Bieber's had two. There's been a couple that have had two, and then they come back and they're throwing just as hard.
It makes you wonder, I mean, the only thing he's really got going for him is Ohtani. Rather than actually have a second one, they'll just actually make him a full-time hitter.
Yeah, and well, Otani's the unicorn in this scenario. But going back to the NBA, I get why you want your stars to be healthy for the stretch run because everybody's goal is to win a title. As an owner who's trying to make money, you need your team to play for as long as possible, putting as many butts in the seats in that arena for as long as possible. So the fact that the owners are having a problem with load management when basically they're getting screwed if they don't do it, that's what blows my mind.
Not to bring it back to baseball, this is why we better enjoy this season where we can because we're going to be in for a very lengthy work stoppage after the Fall Classic this year
Possibly
for a really, really similar type argument.
Possibly. I think they can get something done because remember, Tony Clark is out. And they're going to get somebody in there who understands that, yeah, these guys make a lot of money, but when they're not being paid, it's not a lot of money.
I still think it's rather irrelevant that they let the inmates run the asylum. Now they have to kind of pull back, and now the players think that they have all the power. Sure, the game is marketed around them, but they basically outprice the owners at this point. That if you don't have $5 billion in the bank, it seems you can't own a franchise, and let alone you can't run it as necessary. So you've actually got to, this is where there's talk of, one of the two possible expansion teams coming to the NBA could be funded by, Mr. Ketamine who runs X or Jeff Bezos.
Let me say this to wrap up this segment as far as the NBA and what you just brought up. There is a way around that. You can start penalizing the teams that line their pockets as opposed to put a winner on the field.
Difference is they've got a salary cap and you have the luxury tax on the second apron. You don't have that in baseball, and I'm always going to make an example out of baseball because of that. And we're going to actually see something like that probably by maybe this time in 2027, where we've at least got some sort of framework because you can know that the owners are going to try to lock out the players if they don't give something here. We saw what happened with the WNBA, but with the NBA, you pay your hard-earned money to go see these guys. And within really the last 5 years, it's like I can't tell you how many Cavs games I've tried to go to where Garland was sitting, Mobley was sitting, Mitchell was sitting, combination of multiple of those guys sitting just because they needed rest. It's like they don't pay you to rest. They pay you to play. Suck it up grow a set of stones, and just act your age.
Listen, you're not wrong. You're not. I mean, this is one of those debates in the sports world where there's not somebody who's actually wrong. It's just the divergent point of view. I mean, you and I are on opposite ends of this argument. We've discussed this off the thing. I'm a firm believer in salary floor. You're a firm believer in salary cap. Cool. Cool. They probably need to have a little combination of both. Because yes, if you don't want these teams spending as much as the Dodgers, the Mets, the Red Sox, the Yankees, that's great. The problem is you will still have these owners down here who refuse to spend. No matter, and you can look up the financials. The small market teams are making money where the owners are collecting or in the black, and the teams that have the high payrolls are the ones reinvesting what they make or what they bring in into the roster. So they've got to find the middle ground, because you can't penalize the Dodgers, Mets, Yankees, Reds, yada yada, and do nothing to the guys who have them, who are making the money hand over fist and not putting the money back into the franchise.
When a team in suburban Boston is the most marketable in the NFL, it can happen. So you can't really say it's small market versus large market, because you've got a smaller market, even though Boston is one of the 10 largest markets in the country, but basically where they play and everything, they're not as accessible, and they've actually become one of the probably top 15 most marketable franchises in all of sports.
I agree with you, and I'll close it by saying this. You bring up the NFL as a salary cap league and as an example that you want to go by. Who's had more dynasties, baseball or football, in the last 25 years?
Football.
Okay. So a salary cap league has had more dynasties than a free spending one. Is the problem the salary cap or lack thereof? Or is the problem the way these people put their teams together?
I'd say it's a combination of both, because you can put your
Fair.
teams together within the confines of the rules. Whereas in baseball, we all know that every time, Jose Ramirez, we keep bringing him up, even though I'm a Clevelander, basically left hundreds of millions of dollars on the table to finish his career out with the Guardians, because he's one of the last few loyalists in all of baseball right now, and made sure that one of the 10 best players in all of baseball was not going to basically be fodder for the rich get richer, the Padres, the Yankees, the Red Sox, etc.
And listen, you're absolutely right. It's a dilemma. Not only it seems to me like the dirty words in each league: load management, salary cap, cheating bastards. That's football. Could be baseball too. Uh, and the NHL is dentist, but that's neither here nor there. Nothing really. Come on, that was a good one. Stop it. That was wonderful. I'm the one with the smile like an NHL player. I can say things like that. So, James, even though we spent our first segment talking about the greatest postseason in sports in the United States in college basketball and the NCAA March Madness, as you can see from our attire, your hat and my jersey, it is my favorite holiday. It is opening day in Major League Baseball, because fuck the Yankees. I don't care that they played last night. Opening day was today. We're 2 minutes in. We're not even a minute into our first baseball segment of the season, and we've already said fuck the Yankees. I think we're on a pace for a very, very good season.
Is that anything? Is that anything like on pace for 347 home runs when some guy hits two in the first game?
The Mets had that happen to them today, so yeah, that's interesting. So I do want to start with my boys opening today against Pittsburgh, because I think what we were looking forward to really kind of blew up in our face as we were looking forward to the newly acquired Freddie Peralta facing off against Paul Skeens. on opening day. And here's the line that no one saw coming. Paul Skeens goes 2/3 of an inning and gives up 5 runs as the Mets win 11-7 on opening day. Look, the Mets have the best winning percentage in baseball history on opening day. It's the other 161 that really start to bother me and get under my skin. But I'll tell you this, and I just want to ask you this question, and I want to move around the league a little bit. Something the Peacock in game broadcast team, Vasgersian was on play-by-play. Former Pittsburgh Pirate Neil Walker was one of the analysts. Al Leiter, from Mets Hall of Famer, was there, and then Adam Ottavino was on the field, literally sitting next to the Pirates dugout. So I will say this: Peacock, what they've done, if you've noticed, they always have a play-by-play guy, a former player from one of the teams playing, and a former player from the other one, which I think is a great way to do the game.
Yep.
And Neil Walker, by the way, is a former Met as well. So they went with somebody who had been in the ballpark, but made his bones with the Pirates. A lot of good things I saw today out of the Mets. Freddie Peralta settled down after giving up a 2-run homer in the first inning. Brandon Lowe, who was with Tampa last year, is with the Pirates now. He went deep twice today. First pitch he saw in a Pirate uniform, and then once again in the third. Rookie phenom Carson Bench, the youngest player to hit a home run on opening day in the last 10 years, goes deep in his third at bat as he gets his first big league hit. I mean, all in all, I was able to have it on at work. It was a very good game. It was well pitched. It was long because of the long innings, but it was really well done. And I have to tip my cap to Peacock. They put on a great broadcast. I know when you and I talk about not hearing our guys, the Tom Hamiltons, the Gary Cohens, unfortunately, the final season of Howie Rose, for us Met fans, we usually don't like the broadcast. This was good. These guys were very, very good. So I have to tip my cap to Peacock for that. Jim, we got the Gardos starting tonight in 15 minutes from now. They open their season in Seattle as Seattle begins their defense of their AL West crown from last year and their trip to the ALCS. So just a couple other things I wanted to hit on opening day, just because it's opening day. I see the White Sox are off to their great start. What town are they in again?
We haven't decided that yet.
Okay, well, we'll send them somewhere else as they started on the road in Milwaukee. The Cubs get mollywopped by the Nationals. Baltimore wins Pete Alonso's debut in an Orioles uniform. Cincinnati gets shut out by the Boston Red Sox. Garrett Crochet looked amazing today. Something we haven't heard in a long time, Mike Trout goes deep in an Angels win. San Diego falls to Detroit 8-2. The Cardinals beat Cardinals beat Tampa 9-7. And rounding out the first day, the Phillies, behind Christopher Sanchez, beat the did DeGrom pitch today?
I'm not exactly sure. Really, the only things that I paid attention to most of today was, let's also be honest, Skeens had a very bad stat line, but I also was hearing that he did not get helped out by his defense in the outfield in that first inning at all.
No, and here's where it went off the rails. So Skeens had bases loaded, 1 out. Brett Beatty's at the plate. It's 2-1 Pittsburgh. And give Beatty credit where credit's due. He laced this ball. And Cruz came in. It went over his head. 3-run triple. 4-2. And then he misplayed. He lost the ball in the sun on a Simeon pop-up that landed to make it 5-2. And Skeens, no, he didn't get helped out. But I tell you what killed him. The approach by the Met hitters, and he even said it in his post-game presser out in front of his locker. Did we ever think that Luis Robert Jr. would ever have a 12-pitch at bat against anyone?
I think the stat lines that we're not talking about happened in that Detroit San Diego game as rookie Kevin McGonigal at 21 years old. Remember, he was the 4th overall pick in the 2024 draft by the Tigers, goes 4 for 5 in that game with 2 runs and 2 RBIs, justifying being left up on the big club. And Tarek Skubal, Um, basically, we could already put his name on the Cy Young Trophy apparently for the third consecutive year. Goes out and throws 6 shutout innings, giving up only 3 hits, but only has 6 strikeouts. It's like, uh, what are you doing, Scooble? Did you decide to take it easy? Are you trying to be Ricky Vaughn and not blow guys away and start painting corners? Are you trying to go Greg Maddux here? It's you're gonna win it. But give the people what they want. Come on, Tarek. You got your money. Give the people what we want.
If you can hit it, you can rename it. Throw the
Doing it for
Terminator.
there's a channel that I've been following. He's going through the entire original NES library, start to finish, and play
Oh
and
my
showing you how
god.
to beat those games. His name is Retro Nate, and he drops a lot of Major League and Major League Two lines in there, and he actually. I don't remember what game it was, but it's like, he does he you can see him here. He does a little shimmy. It makes the women here in Cleveland puke.
Nice. My mama died. I think. Thank you, Uke. I think we ought to hold off to that because Garrett Crochet went 6 with 8 strikeouts and then shut out Cincinnati for in Cincinnati. Where you had a pop up in left field and it goes out.
Right.
So, Jim, for the first day, it was very nice to see baseball back and mean something again. I didn't pay attention to the Yankee game last night because I don't like this. I'm a traditionalist where it comes to this. Opening day should start at 11 a.m. in Cincinnati, like it did for 60 years. The first pitch of the season should be thrown in Cincinnati and then let everybody else play. It's the way baseball did it for years and years and years.
I mean, it's natural, progression. We see that the NHL kind of starts their season unofficially overseas now, and then those teams come home, they play an exhibition game or two, and then everybody else kind of starts the regular season, shortly thereafter. The NBA only has a game, has like 2 or 3 games on opening night, and everybody else opens the next week. The NFL opens on Thursday, even though technically with the new schedule coming out that the Rams and Niners are going to be playing in Australia. They're going to be kicking off at 10 a.m. on Wednesday, and we're actually not going to see it until like 7 p.m. the following day because of the time difference. Um, so I mean, we all know basically what it happens. I actually watched only a couple of minutes of the Netflix game. I like the presentation. I don't like the graphic. I actually think that the thing that they have is way too large down in the corner, but that's actually something that they're going to be able to work with. This is why I like watching CBS Sports so often is because their graphics are very slim and streamlined, and you don't have to look around them to find other things.
Yeah, I didn't watch any of it. I did notice that Jameis was there, which is always wonderful. Jameis Winston needs to, and no disrespect to his talent, bro, you need to go into broadcasting. You're so good, Jameis, so good. Because of course Jameis was a college baseball player who probably could have gone pro playing baseball. Surprised they didn't have Kyler Murray there, but of course there is a height requirement to get into Pacific Bell Park or whatever the hell they call it now, AT&T, whatever.
Did you see Sim and the Bat Bros were doing progression through the years? So they were trying like the bottle bat at from the 20s. So they were actually trying to use all the different bats through the years of baseball, including BB cores and Beezers, to be able to for
Ooh.
exit velocity. And then they ended up taking one of the new like Sim had a BB Core Drop 5 built specifically for him that would not pass any sort of regulation, and they had to hit left-handed to try to see if they could hit one in McCovey Cove.
Is that what they were doing that for? I didn't realize that was Sim's bat he was saying he was having made.
Yep.
That's amazing. Um, Last, as we wrap up this segment, because obviously it's just opening day, we're going to talk a lot of baseball this season, especially with James being a T-Mobile customer. I get a free year of MLB.TV. So I can technically, when we sign off tonight, go upstairs, click 2 buttons, and watch the Guards and the Mariners right here. Right here. It's also on the tablet, which is what I had at the office today, all set up next to my computer. But I'm looking forward to seeing how this season is going to play out. I think some of our predictions we made with John are pretty spot on just from what we've seen on day one. I will go out and say this, though. I think we may have shortchanged the Boston Red Sox a little bit, because if Crochet can pitch like he did today the rest of the year, they're very, very good. Very, very good.
And we've already seen, even though it's the first game of the year and they won, our condolences to the White Sox and the Los Angeles Angels of Carlsbad, San Luis Obispo, Rancho Santa Monica, Rancho Cucamonga, for being eliminated from playoff contention before
Don't
April
forget
1st.
the Pirates. Don't forget the Pirates.
We can't say that about the Rockies because they haven't started yet.
Yeah, what's up with that? Are they like the poverty franchise that no one wants to play at all?
ESPN ranked their power, put their power rankings together and already gave them a 0.0% chance of doing anything. And they actually said, could they be chasing history this year for the wrong reasons, that they were on their way to breaking the White Sox record last year, rebounded in the second half, but yet remember, absolutely obliterated the White Sox run differential record for futility.
Yeah, that's true. I think, do we put the White Sox in somewhere in Siberia? Or do we put the Rockies there and leave the White Sox in Minsk?
Would you shut up and just push the button already?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
It's the YZ Translator on the Wise Guys Sports Show.
I'm forever unclean.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is the YZ Translator. It is the best segment of the night because it is the last segment of the night. It is a time when James and I give each other names inside or outside of the sports world. And the first thing that pops into our sleep-deprived brains is what we give to you here on the show.
Because you got it right this time.
Yes, I did get it right this time. A little behind the curtain, since we're still making Oz jokes about what Jim's dealing with the weather. Literally 8 seconds into me starting, and I went, "Oh, damn it, start over." So for the Wiseys next year, we'll have a compilation of all the times I fuck this up.
Now that we're pre-recording, it's easier.
It is easier. So James, it is incumbent upon me to give you the first your name in tonight's YZ Translator, and I'm going to go back to college basketball, and I'm going to give you the new head coach of the Syracuse Orange, former starting point guard Jerry McNamara.
Good luck, because Syracuse is still going to be a middle of the road team in the ACC next year. This is actually the nature of the beast. We see teams have good runs in their conference tournaments, and they have these smaller schools get a really good showing in the first or second round of the tournament and then jump to a new job. We saw it with High Point, taking a job now in the American with Creighton. We've seen now Jerry McNamara turn from Siena to a Power 4 school. These a lot of the times don't really work out nearly as well as we think. Todd Golden was one of the exceptions to the rule last year, taking Florida to a national championship. But it took him a couple of years to get there. I'm hopeful that, you know me, I am not a Syracuse fan. I hated Jim Boeheim And it's not even so much because it's one of the few New York teams that you follow in college basketball on a routine basis. It's kind of the same way. I mean, at the very least, it's good that it's a second generation name going back, as opposed to somebody from an alma mater taking a job there, like, Rick Barnes taking the Tennessee job, leaving Texas, and,
Gotcha.
Thad Matta going back for a second hurrah at Xavier and then ending his career there. I'm actually, it would be kind of funny though if he was able to get Syracuse into the tournament, make a deep run. I'm not saying win a national championship. Certainly with NIL, they can't compete with Duke or North Carolina or Virginia for that matter in their own conference. But it would be hilarious, if his son can actually still do better in college than his dad could do in the pros, and that was never win a goddamn thing.
Poor Mello taking shots from you and I on a Thursday night.
Michael,
What you got for me, bud?
we're gonna stay in the realm of college basketball, and we're gonna stay along the same line here. We talk about somebody who had a job. We mentioned him during the first segment. I'd like to get your take as to where they go from here now that he's out, and that is now former North Carolina head coach Hubert Davis.
I don't know where North Carolina goes. And this is me being serious. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not a North Carolina fan whatsoever. Hubert Davis was a great coach to hire because they had a couple. Did he take over right for Roy Williams, or was there one before him?
Please hold. Go ahead and continue with your thought.
So it really becomes a lot of times when these college coaches are let go from the bigger programs, the question becomes the one I've posed to you and to John and to other people when it comes to Ryan Day: who's your hire? Because this is North Carolina. This is not, no disrespect, this is not Syracuse. This is not Ohio State. This is a college basketball power and icon. Very much like, okay.
Hubert Davis did take over in 2021 after Roy Williams retired after 3 national championships.
Yeah, so basically Roy Williams handed off to a guy who played in the NBA and played at Carolina. So who's your hire? That becomes the question. Who is your hire to where, because being a college coach, it's not just about coaching the team. You have to recruit. You have to run the program. Who is your hire where you don't take a step back? That's what now North Carolina needs to do.
The names have already come out. Billy Donovan, we talked about earlier, they could end up throwing a bunch of money at him. Nate Oates has already told reporters that that his main focus, he has no reason to leave Alabama, especially with the job that he did with that program, rebuilding it to where Alabama was never really anything, really up until Colin Sexton was there. Alabama might have snuck in a couple of years, but they were not a basketball school. It's basically, he did the job with Alabama, like what happened with Vanderbilt. Now that Vanderbilt really was an afterthought in everything but baseball. Now they're a very good basketball school, and they're a prime football school in the mix.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too. Carolina's basketball program lost a little cachet with their hire for the football program. And I'm not saying because they're a good football team. They're not yet. But a guy only had 1 year. But you brought in the winningest coach in NFL history when it comes to championships to run the football program at a school that's not a football school. No matter what having first-round picks in the draft the last couple of years says about you. For Carolina to be Carolina, their basketball program has to be in it every year. And I don't mean just getting to the tournament. I mean in it. I'm interested to see who they bring in. I don't think they're going to get Billy Donovan. If we're being serious, I don't think Billy Donovan's leaving Chicago. There are only certain coaches who will leave the NBA to go to college. Same thing with the NFL. There's only certain coaches who'll do it in certain situations.
The other name that I've actually heard thrown around is Brad Stevens coming out of the Celtics front office to come back to college.
That's got a better shot than Billy Donovan, in my opinion.
Can we actually think of really how 3 programs have really kind of turned around? North Carolina went from one of the premier programs in the country. Roy Williams steps aside. Hubert Davis comes in. They're never really kind of competitive, even though Davis won the 2024 ACC Coach of the Year honor. North Carolina was never really a threat, in that conference. It's now basically Duke and Virginia's conference, and their football program was typically always in bowls, goes out and gets the greatest coach in the history of football and craps the bed. And then we've got Indiana, who's a basketball school that can't make the tournament and then goes out and has their football team put together 25 wins in 2 years, including a national championship in an undefeated season this year.
Jim, I told you the world is going totally upside fucking down.
And then, the other one, and I'm not trying to sound homerish, but Florida was always a better, football school than basketball school. The basketball school always seemed to sneak in. And now Florida, even though with their first round exit, is still a perennial top 5 power in college basketball. They are no longer the defending champions after getting knocked out, and their football program is now going to be on their 4th head coach in the last 7 years.
I mean, they're considered a football school, but they've won more national titles on the hardwood. That's what cracks me up.
3 against 2, yeah.